Video games let you do all kinds of crazy things, like save the universe through the power of friendship, or dispel the evil in the land via the means of ocarina, but they tend to make sense within the context of the game. Though that doesn't mean there aren't some features that got us scratching our heads wondering why on earth the developers decided to include them, especially if we had to dig pretty deep to find them in the first place. I'm Jess from WhatCulture, and here are 10 secret video game features that make no sense. Number 10, BLOODRAYNE 2, Giant Rat. Terminal Reality's action game BLOODRAYNE 2 had plenty of enjoyable oddball bits and pieces. Vampires, cults, devious plots, and floating red text that doesn't make any sense. You can thank players who happen to be looking at the ceiling at the start of the level for finding this one. And yes, I'm sure their discovery had absolutely nothing to do with trying to get a better look at BLOODRAYNE's bangin' protagonist in her skimpy leather outfit. At the beginning of the sewers section, right above Rayne's head, you can see a scrolling message with big letters that read, "Beware the giant rat." Now, if this was 90% of RPGs, this wouldn't be that weird, but in this particular RPG, there is no giant rat. So who or what is the rat referring to, and how giant are we talking? All questions we may never get the answers to. Number 9, Green Jacket Person, Resident Evil 4. There's a lot of spooky stuff going on in Resident Evil 4, and while there are really quite a lot of intricacies related to the mind-controlling parasite of it all, they're mostly explained away with in-game context. What is not so easily explained is a weird little Easter egg that took players 12 years to find. It was a YouTuber named SR212787 who first discovered that if you zoom in on the background structures after the death of Mike during Chapter 5-4, you can spot the tiny outline of a person wearing a green jacket. They appear to be a 2D render posed doing peace signs with their hands and can be seen through the rifle scope, and becomes clearer once the fog is disabled. It's incredibly weird and unbelievably difficult to find. No one has an explanation for what's going on here, and Capcom hasn't offered up any more information. The only sensible explanation seems to be that it might be a developer or a friend of a developer, and it just ended up being included as an asset. Honestly, I'm more surprised that someone managed to find this than the fact it's in the game in the first place. Number 8, the exact opposite of your job, Secret Service. As you'd expect, Cauldron HQ's 2008 Secret Service has you working for the Secret Service. Yes, we're not at the weird or the secret part of this entry yet, but trust me, we'll get there. You play Agent Pierce, and it's your job to protect the president in light of a recent coup. There are some complications, but essentially no matter what the turn of events, you do just that. That is, until the end of the game. Now, Secret Service is pretty darn clear about the fact that your character is a good guy, and an agent whose entire raison d'etre is to protect the president. But for some reason, in the final standoff where the former vice president, now new president, is being held hostage, the game lets you shoot him. Obviously, you're supposed to shoot his captor instead of the president, but if you do decide to go ahead and shoot the president, you'll earn yourself an achievement called the exact opposite of your job. Number 7, The Ghost in the Mirror, Hitman Contracts. Much like Secret Service, Hitman Contracts is a game I'm sure I don't need to explain to you. You're Agent 47, you're a hitman, and you manage to kill people in a mind-bogglingly large variety of ways. I suppose, technically, in a game that features as much death as Hitman Contracts, it's not completely unusual for some of those killed-off suckers to make a reappearance. That said, this isn't a horror game, so spotting a random ghost certainly caught a lot of players off guard. In the traditions of the trade mission, you'll need to infiltrate the Hotel Galard and kill off a couple of terrorists. But before you do that, you may want to pick the lock on a door that leads to a closed-off wing. Once inside, you'll be able to spot a ghost wandering down the hallway and appearing and disappearing sporadically. If you take a good look at yourself in the mirror of room 108, the ghost will appear behind Agent 47's back, but if you look right at it, it'll disappear. Which I guess is some kind of unofficial rule for ghosts. That said, you can sneak up on it in the hallway and kill it if for some reason you reckon one death wasn't enough for this dude. You will get the Ghostbuster achievement for your trouble, but no definitive explanation of who the ghost is or why Hitman has suddenly gone supernatural. Number 6, the Novelty Foam Finger Hand Cannon, Dead Space 2. The world of Dead Space is horrifying and relentlessly unsettling. Well, that is, unless you pop a giant red sports finger on your hand, then it's kinda funny. The mysterious foam finger bears no obvious manufacturer, but its description reads, real space, real terror, real foam. You can unlock it once you finish the game on hardcore mode. Its primary fire is described as bang bang, and its secondary option as pew pew. Utilizing either will result in Isaac exclaiming the relevant phrase as he shoots. Perhaps the only sensible part of this is that the finger obviously doesn't require ammunition and it doesn't have a crosshair, but it does explode enemies you pointed at in one go. Go Team Isaac, I guess? Some people have argued the novelty weapon ruins the tone and immersion of the game, but to get it, you have to play through the entire game multiple times, at least once on hardcore mode. So I'm in the camp of, you've earned it. Enjoy your fun oversized red foam handgun. Number 5. Self-Destruct, NIER Automata. From a fairly convoluted inclusion to a fairly straightforward one, NIER Automata's secret feature is equally as sense-defying. For the uninitiated, NIER Automata is a gorgeous experience with Platinum Games' iconic action gameplay and truly captivating world building. You'll play it through a bunch of times to get the full story, but I'm not here to spoil any of that. For the first and second playthroughs, you'll step into the androidy shoes of 2B and 9S respectively. There's a lot of moving parts here, but basically all you need to know is your protagonists are machines. So in the same way you wouldn't want to take Lara Croft's pickaxe to her noggin, you also wouldn't want to self-destruct. Right? Well, for some reason you can. If you hold down L3 and R3, you can blow 2B or 9S to smithereens. And why would you want to do that? Well, it does make 2B's skirt and 9S's shorts blow up. I see you. Playing for an hour as 9S with no shorts on also grants you an achievement called Not That I Mind, so that makes it extra worth it to try and save the world in your undies. Number 4. The End of the End, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. The End is pretty universally acknowledged to be one of the toughest bosses in all of Metal Gear. He's a veteran sniper that takes shots at you from hiding. He's also really old though. In fact, he's so old that if for some reason you decide to take a break in this particular part of the game for an entire year, you'll come back and see that the End has met his end via natural means. Specifically, he's passed away from old age. I'm gonna be honest, this secret feature actually makes complete sense. It's just not something you'd ever think to see in a video game, but that's Metal Gear for you. Number 3. Babalities and Animalities, Mortal Kombat. There's probably no franchise with more ways to brutally off your foes than Mortal Kombat, but in Mortal Kombat 2 and 3 respectively, things got a little next level. Babalities were introduced in Mortal Kombat 2, which would let players turn their opponents into a tiny little baby version of their character. To perform a babality, the player has to execute a particular button combination for their character and have won the final round using only high or low kick. In Mortal Kombat 3, you could only pull off the move if you completed the round without blocking. It's weird to say watching unique little baby animations doesn't make any sense in a game where characters find increasingly creative ways to expose their foes' innards, but it's especially bizarre in the context of Mortal Kombat. Babalities make a return in MK11, where every single character, including bosses, has a baby counterpart, and each has a unique animation that generally evokes one of their signature traits. They can be activated by winning a round without blocking. If for some reason you think cutesy baby animations do belong in MK, then let's shift gears and talk about Animalities. Mortal Kombat 3 introduced us to Animalities, a finisher that would transform your player character into a vicious animal to maul your opponent to death. Each character turns into a different animal with equally unique ways of unaliving their foes. Animalities were actually another example of a fan rumor that the developers were aware of and later decided to include in the game for real. Interestingly though, Scorpion turns into a penguin and not a scorpion. Huh. Number 2. Shooting the Moon, Grand Theft Auto 3. I'll start this off by saying that shooting the moon in a GTA game doesn't always make it do something, which obviously makes GTA 5 literally unplayable. But back in the Vice City days, it could be whatever size you wanted. That's right, take aim at the moon with a sniper rifle and you can make it bigger or smaller as much as you liked. Why you'd want to do this, I don't know. It doesn't achieve anything in the game, but I mean, it's GTA. You're shooting at absolutely everything else, so why not the moon? Just be careful if the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, cause that's amore. And it is way too late for me to take back that joke. Number 1, the aliens are coming, Monster Max. You'd be forgiven for missing out on Rare's critically acclaimed 1994 adventure Monster Max, but if you did, you wouldn't know about its strange hidden messages. You control Max, a guitarist, in his quest to stop the villain Krond from banning all music from the world. At the beginning of every level, the game gives you a hint of how to solve each section's puzzle. That's fairly straightforward, but at the end of each hint, there's an extra word that at first glance appears to be nonsense. Well, one clever player figured out that the words were anagrams, which, when arranged correctly, spelled out a warning about an alien attack. It reads, Alpha Centauri, Jewel of the Galaxy, will soon be destroyed by intergalactic warships. There's only one small chance to save our solar system. That's all well and good and pretty interesting actually, except that the game has nothing to do with aliens, so we have no idea why the message was hidden or why it was included at all. Your guess is as good as mine. Curious. And that's it from me. Do let me know down in that comment section if you can think of any other secret video game features that just don't make any sense at all. As always, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I've been Jess from WhatCulture. You can come say hi to me on my Twitter where I'm at Jess McDonald, but make sure you stay tuned to us here for plenty more content.